California Endowment, AQMD, MWD, and more. You'll also be hearing more about a couple of national town halls broadcasting live from Los Angeles, to which you will be invited. And we'll be rolling out a robust social media campaign on all our platforms, as well as an outdoor media campaign, all designed to educate, enlighten, and empower you in our fight for climate justice.
We want cleaner air.
Caring about the community means caring about the climate. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that we really can change the world if we care enough. 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 If we care enough.
Of course, we had to play the clean version. Can you imagine the FCC fines if I played the original version of this song from CeeLo Green? You know the original version. This is the Forget You version of CeeLo's big hit. And we're playing it because in this hour, a conversation about all the cussing in America. From the President of the United States on down, everybody's cussing. I mean, I'm not trying to be a Puritan, but is that how we communicate these days? Professor Emeritus, I see people's head. I'm looking out my window. I see people's heads shaking. Yes, it is. That is how we communicate these days. Professor Emeritus in psychology at the Massachusetts College of Liberal Arts, Dr. Tim Jay, says there are actually benefits to swearing. Really? All right, Miles, get the bleep button ready. Here we go with an hour conversation with Dr. Tim Jay about cussing in America. Dr. Jay, good to have you on. How are you, sir?
I'm darn glad to be here, Tavis.
I'm darn glad to have you here, Dr. Jay. I'm laughing because my favorite basketball player of all time, as a matter of fact, down the hallway from this studio in my office, sits a basketball he gifted me as my friend many, many years ago, Julius Erving. So I've never had to call anybody Dr. J except for Dr. J, but now I've got another Dr. J who was an expert in cussing, and I'm delighted to have him on this program for the hour. Let me start with two broad questions, and then we'll narrow as we move through this hour and get to a list of things that I know from your research that that you find beneficial. At least the research finds beneficial about cussing. Let me just tease some of that up right quick and just tease the audience. Cussing may be a sign of intelligence, we are told. Swearing may be a sign of honesty. Profanity improves pain tolerance. Cussing may be a sign of creativity, and it certainly beats throwing punches. That's just a tease for some of the stuff we'll talk about with Dr. J as we move through this hour. But I have two big questions to commence. Number one, how does one, I'm always amazed by, no matter what, I've been doing this 30 years, no matter what the subject is in this country, somebody is an expert on it. There is some academic somewhere who's an expert on the subject matter. How does one become an expert, Dr. J, on cursing?
Well, I concentrated my psychological research for a period of 50 years, progressively answering important questions about the phenomenon. And I don't think, I wouldn't call myself an expert as much as a scholar or a pioneer, but that's other people have called me an expert. But it's just diligence. It's just hard work, and doing the hard work.
Yep. So my next question: what fascinated you enough, or so much you were fascinated by the notion of cursing in American public, swearing in America, that you spent all those decades, all those years researching and working on it? Why were you so fascinated by it?
Well, I was raised in a very religious, strict, conservative family, and it was you always had to learn what not to do, what not to say, how to dress. And so that, finding that gray area in between what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do, as a kid, that fascinated me. And then I became very interested in comedy and film. I was interested in people like Mae West, Red Fox, Richard Pryor, and like those kind of people. That was through my teenage years. When I got to college, I took a course in language and communication and started reading about taboos, things you're not supposed to say, like mentioning the dead, or in other cultures, saying things, sailors saying certain things. And that concept of taboo really struck me. When I got to graduate school, I realized nobody had really done any serious, scholarly work on this, and that's why I decided to dedicate myself to finding out as much as I could about it before I kicked the bucket.
Well, I'm glad you did. I'm glad you made it your life's work and witness, because it gives me an expert. You don't like that word, but you are a scholar to talk about in this hour about why there's so much cussing in our society these days. It's just commonplace. I was laughing, Miles, my board op, and I were laughing when you mentioned Mae West and Red Fox, Richard Pryor. That's some good cussing right there. That's some real good cussing. Mae West, Red Fox, and Richard Pryor. So you picked the right ones to study. Just getting started in this hour, talking about why cursing, swearing is such a phenomenon in this country, and everybody's doing it with ease. These words just roll off our lips, and you're hearing it from the president on down. Everybody just peppering our language more than more with these curse words and all this swearing. And I want to know what that's about. And here comes this scholar, Dr. Tim J., who has studied this for years, who can tell us why we curse. And that's the first question we'll ask when we come forward. Why do we swear? Our guest, Dr. Tim J., right now on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
KBLA Talk 1580 is the exclusive media sponsor of This Light of Ours, activist photographers of the Civil Rights Movement, a dynamic new exhibition on view now at the Skirball Cultural Center in Los Angeles. This Light of Ours showcases more than 150 photos taken by movement insiders from diverse backgrounds that reveal the vital work undertaken by a broad coalition of organizers and everyday people whose collective action changed America. This Light of Ours is one of 3 temporary exhibitions currently on view at the Skirball, which together explore issues related to civil rights, immigration, and pluralism. Tickets and more information for all 3 exhibitions are available at skirball.org. That's skirball.org. SKIRBALL.org.
We all agree that America has a very serious problem.
Okay, KBLA delegation, we need your help as we launch our 2024 Climate Justice Campaign. We would deeply appreciate you going to our KBLA 1580 website and filling out a short climate justice survey, which will help us better serve our beloved community as we build out this campaign. It'll take you just a few short minutes to complete the online survey, and the information you provide us will be invaluable as we do our part to hold folk accountable and amplify the voices of our people in this climate conversation. When you take the survey, you'll be automatically entered to win seats at our annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 29th. So, hit our website at KBLA 1580. Help us out by taking the short climate justice campaign survey, and you could be our guest at our annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 29th. Thank you in advance for your consideration and cooperation. At KBLA Talk 1580, we care about the community, we care about the climate. Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
More of Dr. Tim J right about now. I was just laughing in studio here. The good white folk, when they talk about bad language, they call it swearing and they call it cursing. But Negroes just tell you, you got cussed out. Even, even that, it's just a different sort of thing. We'll come to that a little bit later in this conversation. All right, Dr. J, let's get this party started. Tell me, you wrote the book, sir. You wrote the book. Tell me why we curse so much.
It's primarily emotional expression, and that works two ways. It allows us to get our emotion out, and that could be surprise, it could be anger, frustration, could be sense of humor, and it easily communicates that to somebody else. Like when we're frustrated, grunting or groaning doesn't really communicate to somebody else what you're feeling, but if you say a swear word and how you say it, it does. So we're the only animal that can do this. You know, so we have evolved to do this. And the things that we evolved, they're assets to us. Otherwise, they would become obsolete. So I think you mentioned this earlier. One of the advantages, not only does it efficiently communicate our emotions to other people, but you can be angry at someone else from a distance, and you don't have to scratch them or bite them or hit them to express your anger. And you can yell at somebody across the street or give them the finger, and they know what you're.
Indeed, they do. Indeed, they do. I love the use of the word evolve. When you say, let me give you a chance to unpack that for me. This is going to be a great conversation. I'm excited already. When you say that as human beings, obviously we're the only ones who can do it. Animals can't cuss each other out. They may fight, but they can't cuss each other out the way we do. When you say that we've evolved in this regard, what do you mean by evolved?
Well, I think if you watch how children learn how to express their anger, you can see what I mean. How in the beginning it's very animal-like. Mm-hmm. For infants, when they hold their breath, they throw themselves down on the floor. Anybody who's sent their kids to daycare knows that the kids will come back with scratches and bites on them. Little 3-year-olds will bite each other. But once they, by the age of 3 or 4, they're starting to pick up how to express their anger with words. And so you can see as we develop, not only as kids develop, but as our species developed and had more and more brain power and social awareness, we learn to use swearing. It becomes a tool. Mm-hmm. Emotions are tools to achieve either personal or social goals. So it helps us. It gives us an advantage. Like I said, it gives us an advantage of expressing anger, for example, from a distance. And you don't have to risk getting your butt kicked by, fighting with somebody. You can just yell at them.
You said earlier, I'm just trying to process how I want to get at this. You said earlier that it's not just the words that we use, but how we express those words. And God knows I know that. Because you can use words, and it can be sort of generic, but you can also put some flavor on it. It's the same word, but it's the way you say it. Tell me more about not just the words we use when we curse, but the way we use, the way we express, the way we enunciate those words.
Oh, yeah. You can think of the F word and all the different ways you can say that in a happy way or an angry way. And I think of the term, SOB, and you can be angry and say, oh, you SOB, or you can be, you can meet one of your old schoolmates you haven't seen for years and they're like, you old SOB, it's good to see you. So it really, that tone of our voice, it comes across immediately, how you feel. When we talk to somebody we know on the phone, you can tell within seconds if they're angry or happy or sad, depressed. So that tone of voice is it's general in all types of language expressions, but I think how you say a swear word will affect how somebody hears it.
Yeah. Again, I got some broad questions here, and I got more specific stuff as we move through this hour. But speaking of certain words being taboo, and what fascinated you about this, and why you made this your study for decades, um, I'm curious, to the extent you know, how did this is a strange question, not the first or last strange question I've asked Dr. J, so forgive me for this. But I'm just curious as to how the words that we use when we cuss became bad words. Like, how did those words become taboo? Does that make sense?
Yeah, they're no, nobody's born with knowing swear words. We
Right.
have to learn them,
Mm-hmm.
and so these are standards. They're conventions created by what I call institutions of power,
Mm-hmm.
and that could be something like religion or a court or, like you said earlier, the FCC, media standards. They dictate what should and should not be said. And our parents, when they raise us, teach us that.
Mm-hmm.
So they're reinforcing. I think primarily you can look in the Bible or the Quran and see 2,000 years ago the religious leaders forbid, they forbid certain foods that we could eat. They forbid,
Mm-hmm.
language.
Mm-hmm.
And so the ancient elders really started this, but I think it most universally around the world that these things primarily have to do with sex and religion and disgusting things that come out of your body.
Mm-hmm.
These are very primitive aspects of being a human, and that's why I think to the ancients, these things were kind of a puzzle
Mm-hmm.
about sexuality and gods and being punished by gods, and so you can't blaspheme, can't use profanity. That's about religion.
Yeah.
And so it's lasted for thousands of years.
Yeah. You mentioned the FCC a moment ago, and hopefully I won't get in trouble for even asking this question by the FCC. But this conversation will eventually become a podcast. But right now, on a podcast, you can pretty much say anything, which is fascinating for me. On a podcast, you can say anything. As a matter of fact, if you're listening to this program right now, listen through our app. People every now and then slip up and say a bad word. Miles' job is to catch that and bleep it before it gets out. When he doesn't do that, it goes out. On the radio, when that word goes out, I get fined for that. The station that I'm on gets fined for that. On the internet, when the thing is posted as a podcast, we can cuss all day long. We get no fines for that. So that's another issue we can talk about at another time. But here's the question I'm pushing toward. In a world, in a society where everybody is cussing, what do you make of the fact that there's certain words that you can't say in this radio conversation right now, or I'll get fined for it? But everybody's doing it. I just can't say it on the radio. You can't say it on the radio right now.
Yeah, that's and I wrote a paper on this about that subject matter. And I've had my research has been in front of the Supreme Court about this FCC question.
Oh, yes.
It's predicated on the idea that words harm people, and that that if you say these words, basically you're protecting children or innocence. So that's the premise, is that if you let these things go out over the
airwaves,
airwaves, that's the.
But I'm laughing, Professor J, because Dr. J, I'm laughing because, for example, just an example, Donald Trump says stuff every day that hurts and harms people, and he does cuss. But the stuff that he says that's most hurtful, that's most harmful, he doesn't use swearing to make his point. So this notion that to let these words slip out over the air hurts and harms people not nearly as much as the other stuff that Donald Trump says.
Yeah, I agree that there's a whole question about this now, and like the effect of these things on the internet, racist and sexist, violent language,
exactly,
and its effect on people. And I agree. There's a bit of hypocrisy about some of these language standards. And the FCC, by the way, that commission is appointed by the president.
That's right.
So when you had, the backlash on this about the fines, that came through George Bush. And that, when you have Republicans on there, conservatives, they'll tighten the screws on what you can say. And then when you have a more liberal president, the commission will be, not so nosy. So it's a political beast. The FCC is a political beast.
Yeah, it is indeed. Speaking of the president, President Biden has gotten pretty comfortable with peppering his appearances and his statements, as has Donald Trump, for that matter. Trump goes a little farther, but both of them have gotten pretty comfortable peppering their language with certain words that years ago you couldn't say. Now, they're not the worst of the curse words, but they do it pretty frequently. And my question is whether or not you believe that swearing, it's one thing to have a private conversation, or to your point, flip somebody off across the street or roll your window down and cuss somebody out in traffic. That's one thing, and I'm not suggesting that that's acceptable. But when it comes from elected officials, when it comes from government officials, when it comes from those who are in authority, not comedians, not everyday people, what's your critique of this kind of language in our public and our political discourse?
Well, you hit the nail on the head when you said the word authority, because it's about power, and you see this in any hierarchy. You see this in a hospital with the doctors swearing at the nurses. You see this in a restaurant with the chef swearing at the servers. You see it in the military. It goes down the chain of command. So the people that have the power to say this stuff in public they're the ones that can get away with it. Whereas those of us who are subject to these people in authority or institutions of authority have to obey. And the people with the authority to do this, they show you they have the authority to do it by breaking the rules.
The flip side of that, that's a powerful point. The flip side of that, as you were talking, this thought came to my head. In the workplace, and I know this, and when we come forward, as a matter of fact, I'll tell a story about my getting in trouble for cussing somebody out in the workplace one day. I'll tell that story. I've written about it in one of my books, so it's not a secret. But there's the story is that I got caught cussing somebody out one day, and that's what led to me, just many, many years ago. It stopped me from cussing, and I'll tell that story when we come forward, of how I got caught one day in a work environment cussing somebody out. I was threatened to be fired. I was able to hold on to my job at the time, and I was in the broadcast business already. And I'll tell that story when we come forward, so hold on for that just a second. The point I'm pushing toward, given what you just said right now, though, is that everybody's cussing these days, and to your point, the powerful folk get away with it. If you're the owner of the company, you can cuss folk out. If you're the president, you can cuss in your speeches. If you're a candidate like Donald Trump is or not, you can cuss. All kinds of powerful people, to your point, get away with cussing. But in the workplace, if you cuss out an employee, even though everybody's cussing these days, let's back up now, everybody's doing it. But if you cuss somebody out in the workplace, then you get written up for engaging in a toxic, for being toxic in the workplace. So I'm trying to understand why it is that we have evolved to this point that everybody does it. As we're going to talk later in this hour, you say it can be a sign of intelligence, it's a sign of honesty. It shows creativity. But if you cuss somebody out in the workplace, you get written up for engaging in toxicity in the workplace. Why is that?
Yeah, I've been in legal cases with this too. It depends on the nature of the workplace. Like if I worked for my father, who was a bricklayer. I worked with him. That is common to hear those guys swear on the job. I worked in a factory. It was common to hear swear words in there. But when I was a college professor, that's a different environment. So, but I think you're right. We're in the pendulum, where we had in the 60s, we had more of a free speech, more of a free-going society. Now we have these ideas about sexual harassment and, microaggressions where we're trying to, protect people in different environments. So, it depends on how our sensibilities change. But I in the workplace cases that I've been on, it depends on the nature. I would say that like the community that exists in that workplace.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you get it on a blue collar job, and you get it in a factory, but not in a school. It depends on what affects the normal person in that place.
Yeah, I just think we're all over the map in our society. We're all over the map in our society about where cursing is okay and where it's not okay. It's the same everyday people. We're all everyday people. Different environments, I understand that, but in some environments you can get away with it and nobody thinks anything about it. I mean, think, for example, very quickly, I'm running out of time. We'll continue when we come forward. Think about athletics. I mean, just think about this.
Oh, yeah.
Coaches cuss out players all day long. Players cuss out other players all day long. Players cuss out referees and umpires all day long. They get fined for it, but they cuss them out all day long. So in the world of sports or in the world of entertainment, it happens all the time, and nobody thinks anything about it. But in other venues, in other spaces, in other places, you can lose your job for that. We're all over the map about this. I'm glad I've got Dr. Tim J on in this hour to talk about what all the cussing is about and what it all means. Now, when we come forward, we'll talk about, as I said earlier, how cursing may be a sign of intelligence, may be a sign of honesty. It certainly improves pain tolerance, we are told. It may be a sign of your creativity, and it absolutely beats punching somebody in the face, I suspect. And I'll also tell you my story about getting caught on tape, cussing somebody out one day, how it almost cost me my job. That and more when we come forward with Dr. Tim J on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. Benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Remaining charges against 2 Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department officers are now dropped after they stood trial last year. Those officers, Jonathan Horlock and Nathaniel Shorwecker, faced charges after allegedly striking 2 women with batons during Black Lives Matter protest in downtown Indianapolis in December. A jury found those officers not guilty of 4 charges against them, but did not reach a verdict on 1 charge of battery and 1 charge of misconduct against the officers. Tuesday, those charges were dismissed. Beyoncé will be on the cover of Essence magazine. The African-American singer will be featured on the March-April issue, and inside she'll talk about the legacy of black hair. She's coming out with a hair care line that'll hit stores next week. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Culver City, we have some big trouble right now on the 405 northbound. Right at Washington Boulevard, a semi broke down. It's stuck in the middle lane and traffic is loaded all the way back to the 105. On the South 405 at Mulholland, CHP running a break to get a stall out. Hey, want to remind you in Wilmington, Alameda Street shut down between Anaheim Street and PCH.
Don't miss huge savings on better sleep during Mattress Firm's President's Day sale. For a limited time, shop in store to score a Sleepy's Queen mattress for only $89.99. That's over 60% off and the lowest price ever. So hurry in today. This deal is only here while supplies last.
Why settle for ordinary when you can have extraordinary hair? Visit your local SoCal FS Cut and Color salon today and let their team of expert stylists pamper you with affordable luxury. Get a free shampoo with every cut. Book your appointment today at FantasticSams.com.
Is this the day?
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers and Clippers headed into the All-Star break with road wins last night. The Lakers beat Utah by 16. Anthony Davis had 37 points and 15 rebounds. Rui Hachimura dropped 36. LeBron did not play. He rested his sore left ankle. Third straight win for the Lakers. They're 4 games over 500 for the first time since December 15th. The Clippers had to finish last night's game in Golden State without Coach Ty Lue. He was ejected with 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. The Clippers hung on to win by 5. 26 points and 7 assists for James Harden. Paul George had 24. The Clippers go into the All-Star break with the third best record in the Western Conference. They're a game and a half behind Minnesota for the top spot. Tiger Woods is back on the course today for the first time in 10 months. He's in town to compete in the Genesis Invitational at the Riviera Country Club in Pacific Palisades. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Why are people saying Hugh yeah to Jackson Hewitt? When you switch to Jackson Hewitt, they will beat what you paid last year on tax prep, even if you filed online. Proof of prior year payment required when filing. New clients only at participating locations through April 7th. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com.
On your period, sudden gushes happen without warning. But now, you can say goodbye to stand-up gush fears, thanks to Always Ultra Thins with rapid dry technology. It absorbs gushes 2 times faster than the leading store brand and gives you up to 100% leak-free protection. Hello, clean and comfortable with Always Fear No Gush.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Jim was at the laundromat when he heard. His ear said, "Maraca, senor," but his nose said, "Hey, freshest scent ever." Following his nose, Jim found a man pouring Gain scent beads into the washer. The scent, the freshness. Jim blurted, "Sir, your scent maracas smell amazing." You could call them scent maracas, but most noses call them Gain scent beads. Try Gain scent beads. Way fresher than detergent alone.
He's rooting for everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
Well, Dr. Tim J coming your way right about now. All right, Dr. J, let me jump into some of these the ways that your research suggests that cursing can be good for us. We'll walk them one at a time, and you sound off on it. So the first, as I mentioned earlier, is that cursing may be a sign of intelligence. Talk to me, sir.
Yeah, well, we wanted to challenge the myth that people who have poor vocabularies are the ones who swear because they don't have enough words. So what we did was we had people name as many animals as they could, and then how many that can you say that start with the letter A, and then we had them say as many swear words as they could in 1 minute. And what we found was that the people who could generate a lot of animals or a lot of words that begin with A were the ones who could also generate a lot of swear words. So we showed just the opposite of the poverty of vocabulary. We showed that fluency is fluency. If you're good at language, If you're good at finding words, you're good at swearing. And so when you look at intelligence tests, they're highly dependent on language. Almost all the questions have to do with language. And so to the degree to which language underlies intelligence, that's what we were at. That the people who are good at language are good at swear.
That's fascinating. It's fascinating. So cursing may be a sign of intelligence. Number 2, swearing may be a sign of honesty. Talk to me.
Yeah, that's not my research, but I think this idea of like blurting out how you feel and using a swear word, it cuts right to the how you feel. It cuts to that primary emotion, and it doesn't mask it or hide it. And so when you people like speak the truth, that's what we say, speak the truth to power, that comes across as being more honest than somebody who's like really hemming and hawing and not being direct with how they feel. And that comes off as you're not being very direct or honest with me because you're not getting to the point.
We are told that profanity improves pain tolerance. Is that true?
Yeah, that's a research. Richard Stevens, a friend of mine from England, and what they showed, they used this test called the cold suppressor test. So you got to put your hand in ice water, and I don't know if you've ever done that, but you can't do it for very long. It gets very painful.
Yeah.
So what Stevens did was he said he had half of the people that did that test say swear words, and the other half of the people, they just said some other word that wasn't a swear word. The people that said the swear words while they had their hand in the ice water could tolerate the pain longer. They could keep their hand in the ice water longer than the people who didn't say swear words.
And so I guess the research suggests, or the argument is that the pain tolerance goes up because you're releasing it through that expression, the swearing expression.
Yeah, I think it's like diverting your attention away from the pain by the act of emoting and saying that swear word.
Yeah.
We ask a lot of years ago. I've asked people, how do you feel after you said that the swear word? And they said, they vent. They say they felt better.
Yeah. That ties into the story I'm going to tell in a few moments here about my experience. I did not feel better, and I'll explain that a little bit later here. The next thing on this list of the ways that cursing, swearing may be good for you is that cussing, we are told, is a sign of creativity. Dr. J?
Well, yeah, I think that's exactly what we got in the word generation, and we asked people generated a lot more animals than they did swear words, and it's a hard task to do because you have to remember what you've already said when you start naming animals or naming swear words. I would say try this sometime at home, and you'll see that you can. Most people generated about the same 10 words, and then after that, it got hard to find words. So I think that really shows, to be creative, you're naming all types of weird animals in that task, and that's a sign of you're flexible and fluent thinking, which underlies creativity.
Who knew? Cussing is a sign of creativity. And finally, on this list of the ways that cursing may be good for you, nobody wants to get cussed out. But I guess if the alternative is to get punched in your face, getting cussed out don't sound so bad, Dr. J.
Yeah, I think, when we see people resolving issues with guns or, that going postal, going back to work with a gun, it would be much better. And even if you think about how we punish our children, it would be much better to yell at your kids than to beat them. And so I think that's pretty obvious to most people. That's why we've evolved this. It allows us to express our anger without biting and scratching our, like little kids.
To your invoking of parents and parental cussing, I must say though, and I want to get your take on this, that one of my major pet peeves, and I see it happen in all cultures, but I'm talking now specifically to my black brothers and sisters, I cannot stand it. It makes me crazy when I see parents in public places, in the grocery store, in the shopping mall, in a hotel lobby, anywhere. I can't stand it when I see parents at the top of their lungs cussing out their kids. I don't know what that does to the kid, and I understand we just went through a list of the ways that cursing may be good for us, but I can't imagine any scenario under which cussing out your kids is a good thing. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, you wonder if the people who would do that in public, you wonder what happens at home.
Mm-hmm.
If they're going to be, like lose their sense in public to yell at their kids. Well, I would just say, wait till we get home. We'll take care of this. But we found parents are probably better off finding some other way to punish their kids, especially it's so embarrassing in public. Like take something away from them that they want, or, give them a timeout, or, they get grounded kind of thing, better than swearing at them.
Yeah.
Because those scars run deep.
Don't
we
they?
all remember our parents, how they punished us.
Yep.
And we still have parents today that soap their kids' mouth with soap when they swear.
No, my Angela, who I quoted the other day on this program in another conversation, Maya said to me many years ago, Tavis, people may forget what you said, they may forget what you did, but they would never forget how you made them feel. And I think that's true for children as well. You keep cussing your child out in public places, humiliating them and embarrassing them. They don't forget that, and they hold on to that for years, if not a lifetime. That scars people when you make them feel so horribly by humiliating them and cussing them out in public spaces. I digress on that for now. When we come forward, I'll tell you my story of how I stopped cussing many years ago. You're listening to Dr. Tim J. on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
If you're looking for the most epic place on Earth, let's start at the base of a massive waterfall. Then trek through the thick jungle. Then climb to the peak of a snowy mountaintop. Then once you get there, keep going. Because with intelligent 4x4 and 7 drive modes and a Nissan Pathfinder, the search is the real adventure.
Available feature. Intelligent 4x4 cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. Always monitor traffic and weather conditions.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do Black history every single day. In fact, as the only Black talk radio station west of the Mississippi, we are Black history. Our annual Black History Month luncheon is fast approaching, and we want to be sure to give you ample time to get your company, organization, church, or group to join us at this year's celebration on the last day of the month, Thursday, February 29th at noon. Last year, we honored iconic local Black media personalities, including Pat Harvey, Jim Hill, Mark Brown, Beverly White, Sandy Banks, and Pat Prescott, and raised $20,000 in scholarships. This year, we're honoring Black Hollywood creatives who have used their artistic genius as climate justice champions. At this year's luncheon, we will be showcasing and sharing their inspiring work on our big screen. Plus, a scrumptious meal, live music, great company, and lots of fun with your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts. So contact us today at info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. That's info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. We hope to see you Thursday, February 29th as we close out Black History Month. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Dr. Tim J., I am no pacifist. I am no snowflake. I am no shrinking violet. If you cross me, I will get with you. Trust and believe. But I stopped cussing many years ago, because I was in a studio, in fact, many years ago when I was on NPR. And one of my producers kept humiliating me on the air. And by humiliating, I mean that when we make a mistake in radio, we retrack it. We'll say three. Let's redo that. We'll say 3, 2, 1, and we'll retract the paragraph, the line, whatever it is. And every time I was retracting something, this producer, kept forgetting, or just being a bad producer, wouldn't cut out the countdowns. And so when the pieces would air on NPR, heard all around the world, you would hear me making these mistakes on the air with the 3, 2, 1 count in the piece that wasn't supposed to be there. Obviously, you cut that out. I got sick of that. And one day I just went off. I cussed him from a disgrace to amazing grace. And it turns out that my board op in the other room, who was not a fan of mine, although she was a board op on the program at the time, manipulated the microphone in the studio where I was cussing out the producer. And she recorded me cussing out the producer. She then hated me so much that she made CDs. That's how long ago this was. She made CDs of me cussing out this producer and distributed them all around NPR. Well, it didn't take long for the bosses at NPR to call me in. I almost lost my job. I got disciplined. They changed my contract. I couldn't cuss somebody out anymore. And the point of the story is that when I actually heard myself on tape, I'd been cussing, but I'd never heard myself. When I heard myself on that tape, even though I was justified in cussing him out for doing that repeatedly, I wrote a chapter in the book, Fail Up, I believe it is, one of my books called Fail Up. And I wrote in that chapter that even when you're justified, you have to remain dignified. Even when you're justified, you want to remain dignified. But when I heard myself on that tape for the first time in my life, cussing somebody out, I felt this small. And I vowed to myself then I would never do it again. Now, again, I will get with you if you cross me, but I will not cuss you out, because when I heard myself and the way it made me feel, I said, Tavis, you can do better. And that was many years ago, and I haven't done it since then. But I tell that story because you said earlier that in your research, when people cuss, oftentimes it makes them feel better. Your closing thoughts, sir.
Yeah, I think what you used the word justify. I think that's anger works that way sometimes, like you feel justified at being impolite with someone who's offended you. Mm-hmm. And that's why we use the word get even. You kind of want to get even with them. That's a lot of times when we're angry like that, we do want to get even. We don't want to fight with them.
Sure.
We just want to, you want to get, it's kind of like revenge. You want to get even with them. But I think what sounds like what you experienced is as you're listening to yourself, you're sensing you're sort of out of control.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
And I think that's what it's like, I shouldn't have done that when it comes right back to you. I did that in the classroom once, and I swore at some students who were acting up, and their acting, it really made me angry.
Yeah.
And I had to go back in the next day when I met with them. I apologized to the guys I yelled at, and I apologized to the whole class for losing control.
Yeah, no, I take your point. That's exactly how I felt. I've been delighted to have had you on this program for the hour to talk about why we curse and what all this cussing is about these days. And people have to live their lives as they so choose. But I've been enlightened and empowered by this dialogue with this brilliant scholar, Dr. Tim J., who's an expert, even though he doesn't like that word, on what it means that we're doing so much swearing in our society. Dr. J., all the best to you. Good to have you on. Thanks for your time, sir.
Same for you, man. It was a blast.
It was a blast for me as well. When we come forward, the best clip I have ever heard from a comedian about cussing. You can't do any better than this, and you probably know what I'm talking about. It's from Bernie Mac. We'll clean it up, but we're going to play Bernie Mac on the MF word that you have to hear. If you haven't heard it, I know you have. We'll close this hour with that when we come forward.
Unapologetically progressive. Unapologetically black. You're tapped into Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
That was another way. I would smoke once an hour. That didn't work either. All that would happen at some point of the day, I would end up doubling up. Other ways that I tried to quit was I stopped buying cigarettes totally. But if I took 3 puffs off of 15 friends, those didn't count because they weren't my cigarettes and they weren't full cigarettes. I went through a lot.
Every attempt is part of your story to quit for good. Visit Kick It California today at kickitca.org.
Some people just know the best places to eat around town. Those are the people who know to choose Allstate. They know exactly where to go to get exactly what you're wanting. They know where to find the spiciest hot pot, the gooeyest brownies, and the tenderest, most flavorful portobello steak. Those people also know that safe drivers save 40% with Allstate.
Saving 40% is based on the national average premium savings for all state auto customers with a clean driving record versus those without. Savings vary by state and vary based on how you buy, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
We thank Dr. Tim J. for that amazing conversation about why we curse so much in our society. We were talking in that conversation about not just the words that we use, but how we use the words that we use when we curse. And no one has explained that better than Bernie Mac when he closed the King of Comedy show. Here Bernie Mac is, in his own words, describing the ways in which black folk use the word MF.
Because the word motherfucker is a noun. It describes a person, place, or thing. You know, when you hear black folks, we loud. That's our defense mechanism. We loud. We talk aggressive, But get it, we ain't gonna do nothing to you. We ain't gonna do that to you. You know, we'll tell you in a minute, you know, I'll blow this motherfucker up, you know. You ain't never known a black terrorist in the day of your life. You ain't never known a black man to blow up a goddamn thing. First of all, where you gonna buy the dynamite from and from who? The first time he tried to buy some dynamite, he going to jail like a just expression. I had a guy, man, white people, when you see my people, when you see them in the social place, you see them in the mall, you see them in the bowling alley, and you might see 3 or 4 brothers together, you might hear the word motherfucker 32 times. And you might hear just 2 regular English words. But the conversation makes sense like a mother. Everybody can understand it. Don't be afraid of the word motherfucker. I'm gonna break it down to you. If you're out there this afternoon, you see about 3 or 4 brothers talking, you might hear a conversation and it go like this. You seen that motherfucking Bobby? That motherfucker owed me 35 motherfucking dollars. He told me he gonna pay my motherfucking money last motherfucking week. I ain't seen this motherfucker yet. I called the motherfucker 4 motherfucking times, but the motherfucker won't call me back. I called his mama the other motherfucking day. She gonna pay like the motherfucker went in. I started to cuss her motherfucking ass out. But I don't want no motherfucking trouble. But I'll tell you one motherfucking thing. The next motherfucking time I see this motherfucker and he ain't got my motherfucking money, I'm gonna bust his motherfucking head and I'm out this motherfucker.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.